Talk with Rams on this 6th episode of the Lockdown Survival Series. I promised you last night I'm going to bring the big shots, and I've got the CEO of the NYDA, the National Youth Development Agency, Waseem Carim. He's joining me tonight. It's going to be an open-ended chat about the fund that they've come up with, but also about the NYDA and really about surviving in this space because they are busy themselves in this space. So thank you very much for joining us, guys. You know we're on Facebook Live. We're also on YouTube. Please send your questions. Please send your comments on Facebook. But also, do remember to press that notification button so that every time we're on air, you can pick us up automatically. Waseem, good evening, mate, and thank you very much for joining me.
Yeah, good evening, Rams. Good evening to all of the listeners and all of the Muslims who are starting Ramadan today. Ramadan Carim.
Yeah, certainly. I echo your sentiment. I'm going to start again by acknowledging your communication team. I am so chuffed that I'm speaking to you tonight, having poked them rather cynically last night, and they responded immediately and got you onto the show. So keep big up to your communication team.
Thanks. Yeah, look, we're still trying to be as accessible to young people as possible during the lockdown.
Yeah.
But I'll definitely pass the message on to those guys. Yeah.
Great stuff. Let's start at the top. For those people who are listening to us and do not know much about the NYDA, how would you describe the NYDA to them?
Yeah, so I mean, NYDA was established about 10 years ago. It took two former institutions, which was Umthombo Youth Fund and the National Youth Commission, and put them together. And it's, for lack of a better word, it's an umbrella organization for youth development in South Africa. Yeah, which is a good thing, but it's also a bad thing because, in a way, we're kind of expected to respond to every single challenge that young people face, and there's many challenges that young people face. But on the other hand, that kind of makes us a jack of all trades and a master of none. Yeah. So a lot of times we need to decipher a strategy, put it together, and stick to it. And a big part of our business is establishing partners and the right kind of partnerships. That even if though we may not be able to be the right people who help young people, we can point them in the right direction. We can get them the support or the help that they need to achieve their goals, to achieve their dreams, or sort out their problems. Yeah.
I know the answer, but I'm going to ask you so that everybody else knows. NYDA is a government institution.
Yeah, so we're a public entity. We fall underneath the presidency in the Department of Women, Youth, and Persons with Disabilities.
And your mandate is solely funding.
So I mean, if you read the NYDA Act, which is the act that establishes us as an organization, it kind of makes us a little bit of a mini government for young people, right? So if you read that act, it will tell you that NYDA should provide funding to young entrepreneurs. They should establish jobs programs that connect young people with jobs opportunities. They should be the coordinator of the National Youth Service Program in South Africa. They should establish monitoring and evaluation programs that evaluate all government programs around youth. We should develop research and policy around youth development. We should coordinate the integrated youth development strategy. We should offer career guidance services. We should offer services which cater with health and substance abuse. So it's a wide variety of services. Yeah? And that's on a budget which is about 400 million. It sounds a lot, but you have approximately 20 million young people. You divide that up, that's about 20 Rand per young person. So we've kind of got to prioritize as an organization, and I've got to prioritize as a CEO. So you've kind of got to look at what's the most pressing issues. So take, for example, education. There's already a lot of money that goes into basic education and goes into higher education. Yeah. So I shouldn't be duplicating what those departments are doing. I should rather be not working in a silo and creating pipelines from basic education and higher education into jobs opportunities. So really, we streamlined our services around three things. One is economic development through youth entrepreneurship, creating pathways to decent jobs for young people, and coordinating the National Youth Service Program in South Africa. And I'd say primarily, we're working on fixing the big problem of youth unemployment.
Now, I like the fact that you do say that you only have probably 20 rand per young person in the country.
Yeah.
I mean, I know 400 million rand is not a lot of money at all.
Yeah.
What do you then prioritize? What do you then want to measure yourself on as NYDA? Let's say now in this current administration, what are your 2-3 priorities where you think you can make the best impact out of this small budget?
Okay. So I think, naturally we have to look at before COVID-19 and life after COVID-19. Yeah. So one thing since President Ramaphosa took office in 2018, one of his obsessions has been youth unemployment and solving the crisis of youth unemployment. We have all of these young people with all of the energy and productivity and able to build South Africa, yet we leave them on the sidelines. We leave them idle and we don't utilize their energies in the right way. And over the past year or so, working with the team at the presidency, and the presidency is very strong on social compacts, so bringing on board the private sector and civil society. SONA 2020, the majority of the speech, in actual fact, was dedicated to youth unemployment. And what's been developed is called the Presidential Youth Employment Intervention, which is really 5 priorities over the next 5 years, aimed at taking multitudes of young people, 3 million, into employment. And it's understanding the nuances that it's not a one-size-fits-all strategy. So the 5 priorities have to have a mix of youth entrepreneurship. It's got to have a mix of self-employment. It's got to have a mix of youth service opportunities. It's got to be a mix of young people who complete the TVET education but don't have space to do the experimental learning. It's taking what the private sector is doing with the youth employment service. So it's taking the many things that exist, removing the duplication and inefficiencies, and bringing better coordination to really have something that responds to young people. Yeah? And President Ramaphosa, in addition, announced a top slice of the budget. Yeah? 1% top slice of the budget, which at that time was 15 billion rand. Yeah? Committed to youth unemployment. Not that 15 billion rand is coming to the NYDA, but unlocking a budget that's youth-centered and youth-focused. Yeah? So I think that's really this administration's focus. But I'm sure we'll chat about what it becomes in a life after COVID-19. Yeah?
Yes. Let me welcome people who are already joining us. Philip Enoch says we are here. Pretoria in the house. Adrian Melkas Thurston says we are here. Tuso Sebako, good evening, gentlemen. And Adrian is back again saying good evening, gentlemen. Nozuko saying good evening, Waseem. So we've got people coming in, Waseem, talking, listening to us, watching us on this platform. Yes. So let's talk about this relief fund that you have launched. The Youth Entrepreneurship Relief Fund. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so I mean, in the initial period after COVID-19, government kind of came together and announced funding based on what was really the hard hit industries. So, for example, there was a tourism relief fund that was put together by the Ministry of Tourism. There was an agriculture relief fund, owing to the fact that we would need to probably look at protecting food security in the country. And then the Department of Small Business, which is very critical, put together their SMME fund. Yeah. So at the start, NYDA was kind of referring young people into the different funds that exist and acting kind of as a referral agency for these different kind of funds. We then saw the private sector come on board, and through donations and those kind of things, I think the Skuma Fund was established. And then watching these things, we became acutely aware of 2 things. On the one side, there was a paper produced by a group of UCT students, which kind of showed that although you have all of these funds, micro businesses don't really seem to be accessing them. Sometimes the compliance requirements are a little bit strict in nature. And sometimes it's people don't want or don't have the capacity to take on board loan funding, which is what a lot of them are about. Yeah. And then also this thing of the informal economy, which is a large part of South Africa, was a big conversation, and that the informal economy and informal traders seem to be being left out. And then I also noticed that the Skuma Fund in the first 3 days received almost 100,000 applications, So we as the NYDA, with youth entrepreneurship being a big part of our business, we felt like we couldn't just sit on the sidelines any longer. It was important for us to put together a fund, but not something that duplicates what already exists. And being youth-centered, this is a fund that really targets micro enterprises. So we're trying to make the application criteria as easy as possible. Yeah, all we want is a one-page application form, your business registration, and your last 3 months bank statements. And then some kind of proof that your business exists, so municipal account or anything that can kind of tell us that you are a trading business. And our idea is that during the lockdown, everybody would have experienced a drop in capacity, a loss in profits, unless you're an essential service. So what we really want to do is we want to subsidize your lost profit up to a maximum of 10,000 Rand through a grant fund. And of course, you have to be a youth-owned enterprise to be able to qualify.
The first one is that you say that you have to be registered and you have to be youth. Now, earlier though, you said you want to help informal businesses. Have you made peace with the fact that some of these informal businesses that we have may not be registered the same way as a formal business that some of us are, or you insist on this registration even if one is informal?
So we're not going to force registration. It helps if you're registered. Let me say it does help if you're registered. It makes it easier, right, if you're a registered company. Yeah. But we are willing to accept applications where you may be unregistered. Yeah, we've always catered in our policy for informal kind of businesses under funding of 10,000. Yes. We are willing to accept. I want to be honest and say it's a little bit harder. Where it's very hard is if you don't have a bank account. It makes it extremely difficult for us to find you if you don't have a bank account. But I think it's also important that, there's always been this conversation about the cost of doing business in South Africa and the ease of doing business. We must try and bring informal businesses into the formal sector. Yeah, even because micro businesses don't have to pay tax. Yeah, under 500,000 you don't pay tax in South Africa. Yeah, and when you're formalized, you have access to funding programs. Right. What we're picking up now is so many businesses which operate and employ people, but they don't register people for UIF. Yeah? And UIF is small; it's 1% of the employee salary, and you make 1% contribution as the employee. Yeah. And you enjoy that protection of income if you ever lose your job, But I think, and government does also take responsibility. There's a fear between citizens and government at times, and people sometimes stay unregistered for reasons where they don't trust the government, And we also sometimes put in place regulations which are difficult for people to respond to. But sometimes regulations are necessary, right? So if you run a food business, to get certification from the Department of Health is important, And in NYDA, we've also introduced things which help you get formalized, So for example, if you want to trade in these kind of soaps and sanitizers and stuff, sometimes you need a certificate from the South African Bureau of Standards. And we've introduced a compliance voucher which can help subsidize you for those compliance costs, which are sometimes expensive and sometimes stop you from entering the formal market.
Sorry, I keep on muting my microphone because if I don't mute it, there's a bit of an echo, so there's a bit of delay there. Let me welcome more of our viewers. Pula Mufokeng, and I'll ask your question just now. Pula, Tina Lady says we are here, Rams. Musedin Kanyani, good evening, Rems and Waseem. In Secunda, Mpumalanga, Pikile Pizzo Mokwante is here, Jay Shiba. We are all ears, CEO. Oh, I see you've rallied the troops. And Adrian says, talk about the relief fund. Now, here's a question from Adrian. And Adrian asked this question on Twitter earlier, and I did say he must join us and ask it live. He says, talk about the relief fund and why must you have been previously funded to be funded again through this fund?
Yeah,
that sounds like a lot of funds in that.
My comms people did let me know about that, and I must apologize and take responsibility as NYDA. There was a miscommunication from our Durban branch on that part there to say you had to have been previously funded, because this is open to youth businesses that we funded in the past or that we may not have funded in the past. Yeah. And I sincerely apologize for that miscommunication. We've taken it up with the Durban branch and we've told them that all applications, irrespective, but it was that communication was limited to just one of our centers in the country. Yeah. And I'll make sure that the application is taken into account and is fairly assessed, transparently assessed.
I'm so glad that has been clarified because I was worried about it myself. But just to make sure that people understand this, it is a grant, not a loan.
Yeah. So NYDA for the last 5 years has switched away from loan financing towards grant financing. But grant financing on a small scale. That's why you'll find that our grant is probably the smallest that you'll find anywhere. Yeah. But we're not a loan agency. We're not a collection agency. This is purely grant funding. We want to try and subsidize the loss in profit or inject working capital into young people's businesses, keep them secure through the lockdown. Yeah.
My personal view, Waseem, is that I actually believe that everybody must be registered. And we don't even have to respond. I believe that there must be regulations. We must be registered. We must be traceable. This is public funding. We can't just throw it at people who can prove that they do exist and that they're doing responsible work. But that's my view. We're not here for my view. We're here to interview you. So don't even respond to what I just said. Pula Mufukeng wants to know. I know the answer, but I'm going to ask you anyway. I'm 39 years old now. Do I qualify for funding?
Yeah, so it's a real challenge, but our act is pretty clear that we fund people only up to the age of 35. Yeah. But look, I would encourage her to apply to the SCUMA fund, to apply to the SMME fund, which is available from the Department of Small Business. The SCUMA fund is available from business partners. So there are other agencies who can process the application. In the president's stimulus package, he also announced that the banks are going to start initiating funds, and they committed that by the end of April, those funds would be out, guaranteed by government. So I think we are creating room where small businesses and medium-sized businesses there's an acknowledgement that they're going to struggle. There's a commitment that money will be put into the system to try and assist small businesses as far as possible.
Melu Singwenya asks, great, when can we expect payment after application?
Yeah, so actually one of the things that the UCT students picked up in their paper is that it's great to have all of these funds, but if money is going to take long to get to people, it's going to adversely affect them, right? A lot of these businesses are not going to be able to pay their employees. So we're striving that 7 days after we assess an application, the money is in your account. Yeah. So we also believe we have a role to play in flow of money in the economy. Keeping funds going so that people are being paid as employees, business owners have profits, and they can spend that money and keep sectors flowing. Because I think what we're going through is unprecedented. A complete shutdown of everything.
Yeah. Please tell me about your relationship with other government funding agencies and how seamless is it? I mean, so I come in, I'm a micro business. My revenues are 300, 400,000 per annum. I do well. After working with you for a while, you've been helping me. I hit 1 million. I start needing funding maybe from CIFA or something like that, do you graduate me and do you work with other agencies to get me to the next level? Because I don't want to be informal or micro forever.
Yeah. So let me give you the relationship of us and other entities, right? So we're probably one of the only organizations that funds at ideation phase, right? So sometimes you've got no product, you're just with a prototype, or you've just got an idea and you want to start, you've never run a business before. That's where we come in. And that's why our funding is generally small, up to 250,000, but mainly we fund up to 100,000. Yeah. And it's also that we recognize that the entrepreneurship space is a risky space, and we should give people space to experiment, fail, and sometimes be able to try again. Yeah. So that's kind of where we fit into the system. Now, what we've noticed over a number of years is that there's heavy demand for NYDA's grant program. On average, 8,000 a year applications versus 1,000 that we're able to fund. Right. So we're continuously going to provincial governments and national government to say, look, we've got the capacity. We have the trainers who train the young people. We've got the business development officers who assess the applications. We've got the business advisory officers who do aftercare for 2 years afterwards. We can do more. So please assist us. And I must say, many of the provinces have supported us. KwaZulu-Natal has put money into our grant program over a number of years. The Mpumalanga province has supported us. I'm trying to think of the other one now. It doesn't come to mind immediately. Free State has also put money into our grant program. Yeah? So that was kind of our fundraising strategy. Yeah. And then on top of that, when these conversations were happening with the presidency around the presidential youth employment intervention, the presidency said to us, what can we do as an initial thing to show young people that we take them seriously? Yes, we have a commitment of 3 million jobs over the next 5 years, but what can we do now, right? Kind of give a kickstart to everything. And we said we've got all of these grant applications. These are young people who've been assessed, who have good ideas, who've been assessed for risk, but there's just not money in the system to be able to fund it. And we said to the president, we think that between the State of the Nation and June 16th, 2020, we can fund 1,000 businesses in 100 days of young people. Yeah, and they like the idea and they put it in the SONA. So and we were running that concept. We had funded 268. You can find their names on our website. We funded 268 before COVID happened. We unfortunately had to stop the program because 85% of the economy is not working, right? So now is not necessarily the right time to fund a startup. But once we get back to a semblance of normality, we want to finish that project. We still want to finish it by June 16th, so that those 1,000 people get their capital and they can be running their businesses, But coming back to the question around collaboration. So let's say you walk into an NYDA branch, we know what CIFA's requirements are. So if we can't fund you, we want to be able to refer you to CIFA, right? NYDA is the other big agency. Although they don't provide finance capital, they provide non-financial support, right? So if you come into our office with a NYDA training certificate, we don't tell you need to go through NYDA's training again because you've been through a government agency's training program. Why should we train you again? Young people don't need certificates over and over. They sometimes just need their capital, NYDA offers mentors for people who are running businesses and may need mentorship. Yeah? And they pay those mentors. NYDA doesn't have the budget to be able to pay mentors. So on the 1,000 businesses, NYDA is bringing a paid mentor to every one of those businesses. So this is the kind of linkages that we've established in government. We fully acknowledge the fact that government has operated in silos in the past, but most of our centers will know different agencies that they can refer you to. And as far as possible, we try and not move people from pillar to post. Keep them in the system. I think the real trick in South Africa lies in unlocking private sector capital for microfinance. And it's been accelerated in what the president announced about government guaranteeing the funding, but using the capacity and skills of our banks to provide businesses. Banks will tell you in general that they don't fund startup businesses. Yeah? We need to get a point where we kind of de-risk this microfinance, because all the real solid capital is sitting in our financial services institutions, and we need to find a way of getting that money into the market.
That leads me to a question that I actually meant to ask you earlier. Does your mandate allow you to raise capital outside public funds?
Yes, it does. Yeah, and
Oh,
we do it as well.
great.
So
By the
yeah, we don't. I mean, as much as I started off by saying 400 million is can't respond to every challenge, that doesn't mean we sit and just do nothing about it. We go out into the market and
yeah,
try and fundraise as much as possible, to build up our income
excellent.
statement as much as possible, so we can put that money and transfer it to programs that work for young people.
Glad. I'm actually also glad that you take more risks than other state funders, and I understand why. I mean, I'm not saying that everybody must take risks, but the more risks we can take on young people, the better we're going to build this economy. I've got two questions for you, and we're running further of time. Musedi asks, Waseem, do you fund a business if one partner is youth and the other one is not? That's question number one. Question number two is, I'm a chemical manufacturer from Secunda. I need product testing. Would you fund me? That's Fiki.
Yeah. So I mean, on the first question again, the collaborative business needs to be owned by owners which are all under the age of 35. So unfortunately not. For product testing, certainly we do. It would fit well into the compliance voucher that we're offering at the moment. I'd urge,
Yeah.
sorry, I missed her name there, but I'd urge her to apply. Check out our website, www.nyda.gov.za. Check out the application criteria. You can also, we're still fully online via social media during the lockdown period. We're available on our website, on email. You can pop us any of those means, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Rams can testify that we get back to you quickly.
Well, let me tell you who can testify. It's not even Rams, it's Adrian himself. Adrian just writes to us now. Thanks, Waseem. That clarifies my question. On a second note, I have received an email saying this. It will be automatically reversed and I'll be reassessed. Already, on the response that you just gave me, your people have responded to him and he's going to be reassessed. Your people are working. Your people are working. I'm impressed.
On a Friday night, yeah, no, definitely.
I love that there are the questions are now coming. Young people, I didn't know that I have young people watching this show. I thought people only my age are watching. As we conclude, this is supposed to be a 30-minute show, was it?
Yeah.
In this lockdown period, what have you found has been the biggest challenge for micro businesses?
Yeah, so I mean, I think the middle class in South Africa has an ability to live kind of paycheck to paycheck, with maybe a little bit of money in savings that can sustain it. I think a lot of micro businesses operate day to day. If not day to day, maybe week to week. It is very hard for them to survive if 21 days, but 35 days with no income generation whatsoever. Online is available, and I think a lot of people use Instagram pages and use Facebook pages and those kind of things. But demand is very low in the economy. Unless you're selling food or medicine, demand is extremely low in the economy. I was talking to a collective group of people who run early childhood development centers. And unfortunately, when you've got to choose between paying food and paying school fees, you've got to choose food. Yeah. And unfortunately, this is a major disruption to the economy. But I think the stimulus package that was announced on Tuesday night is a step in the right direction. But that's not where it stops. Announcing it is one thing. Government's got to act quick and fast in getting this money to its people. And I think if there was ever a time to rethink how we operate efficiently and effectively, it's now, and we've got to get that money to our people as soon as possible.
Waseem, we have unfortunately run out of time. I'm going to ask you to ask your communication team to go onto the Facebook page. There are number of questions coming through, people wanting to get more clarifications on the fund and generally on NYDA. Some of the questions have been answered. I think people came in a bit late, and I'm going to ask them to rewatch. But maybe your team should respond to some of those questions that have been asked. But I want to thank you for this time and for responding so quickly and for the clarity of your communication. It's been great. I hope it's a beginning of a relationship between this platform and the NYDA.
Yeah, definitely so. Yeah, and I just wanna encourage everybody to stay safe, to stay strong. And we're a strong people. We'll endure things.
Have a great evening, my brother, and Ramadan Carim.
Thank you so much. Cheers.
And thank you to everybody who joined us tonight. Unfortunately, not all of your questions are answered, but I do appreciate your participation. Everybody, I could not have had a chance to acknowledge everyone who joined us. Continue to do so. I promise you that this platform is going to really help you to build your businesses to the point that they can be great, and they all can be featured on this show, by the way. I want to feature you on this show. I want to talk about your own businesses and your challenges, but also to hook you up with coaches, with funders, with all those people that can get you to the next level. This is your platform. I want us to all use it. As of next week, we'll give you an email address where you can send your profiles if you want to be interviewed, your questions, your issues. But stay with us. I truly appreciate it. Do share with everyone how they can participate on this platform. We shall be back next week. I just got to learn because of this lockdown. I forgot that next Monday is a public holiday. So I shall only see you next Tuesday, not next Monday. Between then, don't forget to, no, it's the other way. So keep your mask on, stay home, stay safe, and God bless you. From me, Rems Mabote, good night, and God bless.